Well, good morning, Jake Parent.
Good morning, Groovy.
It is good to see you again. Welcome to the Whitestone. We'll call it a podcast. How about we just call it a um, a video online with an introduction to breath energy. I guess it's breath energy works, right?
Breath
Just
Dot Energy, yeah.
breath energy in
hmm
Phoenix, Arizona. And you are Jake or Jason Parent,
I am.
the founder of Breath Energy. And welcome to the Art of Letting Glow, the Art of Letting Go to Glow podcast. And I'm here in Prescott, Arizona, in my Glow studio. And
hmm
as you know, I have been messing around with the this glow painting, and in the process of waking up to the reality that art is it's really more of a spiritual practice for me. I started to really discern over a few months what's the whole point of the art. And what came to me was my teacher who told me it's never really about the art, it's about the process of becoming an artist. And I know you can relate to that. So,
hmm
what I'm doing is inviting people into this discussion about the idea of what it means to be letting go in order to find glow, which would be, let's say, in your case, your creative outlet and
hmm
how that's come forth in your life through the breath energy work, and also a little bit about plant medicine and maybe how that's evolved for you. So, what I've done is I've put together some questions, and I wanted to show before I get into this, if I can, real quick. Let's see. Can you see this on the screen?
I certainly can, yeah.
Okay,
That looks
cool.
familiar.
Yeah. It's got some weird background in the background, so let's see if I can get rid of some of that real quick. Some of these other thingamajiggers, just in case there's pertinent information that shouldn't be shared with the
The
audience
audience.
out there. Yep. So I'll just
hmm
close it out. Okay. So I was down in Phoenix the other day and I came across this, I'll call it a little bit of a road map, and I could really relate to it. And, through my experience in sobriety, in 12-step sobriety, this little map, I think, well, a lot of the different traditions and different spiritual paths that I've encountered over the years, of course, starting with the 12-step recovery community. It seems that there's a lot of overlap or a lot of continuity in the different methodologies. So first of all, I wanted you to just introduce this real quick, where this came from, what maybe a little bit about breath energy, just a little background to this particular well, it's a map that you've created. It's called the Journey to Self-Awareness. And you don't,
hmm
I'm going to ask you specifically about some of the areas, but just kind of in
hmm
general, where did this come from? What inspired it? Maybe a little bit about your background real quick, and then I'll get into some specific questions.
Okay. A little bit about my background. My name's Jake. I'm in my early 50s. Divorced, couple kids. Used to be a business executive, worked in C-suite, CNV suite, and in sales and marketing, and just got to a point in life where I was successful but unhappy and unfulfilled, and everything was pretty much a struggle, and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And through that, found plant medicine, found breath work. This was about a decade ago, so it wasn't nearly as popular then, and it really turned my life around. Really did a lot of great things for me. So I started a breathwork studio and I guide people on plant medicine journeys. And the about 5 years ago, we were I was doing sales and marketing that I do. I was trying to come up for a marketing campaign on why somebody should do breathwork for 90 days. And it was like, well, you should do breathwork for 90 days because and just like I don't know, because you're more awesome at the end of it, and that seemed very unfulfilling. But it was like it was trying to define what was happening during that. I knew that if you did it for 90 days, that there was this incredible transformation, but I couldn't define what that transformation was. And it's like, hey, your eyes get bigger, your face gets softer, the stress melts away. There's all these benefits that happen in your life, but you don't want to go on a 30-second rant every time you do that. You're like, hey, I need something a little pithier than that. And what I finally settled on, or what finally came to me was like, oh, what you achieve in 90 days is self-awareness. That's why all those changes take place is because you become self-aware.
Hmm.
And then I spent the next 2 years trying to figure out like, well, what is self-awareness? Like when you just go and read about it, I was, I spent 5 years trying to define wisdom because I was deeply dissatisfied with the definitions that I found online. But when it came to the self-awareness, it did take about 2 years. And what we're looking at here is this comes from internal family systems, which is a type of therapy developed by Richard Schwartz. And the focus of that is that there is an eternal you that they call the self. That there's an overarching you that embodies all eight of these seed words, and that when you are in that state, that is you. But then there's all these subroutine software programs that run that take over at different times in your life. Oh, here's the routine that runs when I'm dealing with my mother-in-law. Here's the routine that runs when I'm at school, when I'm at work. Here's the routine that runs when I get cut off in traffic. And those aren't you. Those are what they call parts, which is internal family systems. It's that it is a family of these parts that are running you. And the more that you can stay in your authentic self, the better off that you are. But in IFS, they just have the eight C's. They're not in any order. They're just like, hey, here's the eight things that make up you. And I was like, I don't think it is accurate. Well, it is overall it has the correct picture. But what I began to see is that as people do breath work, there's a reliable path that people go through towards achieving each one of these states. That calm is always first. You've never met a frantic creative person. They may be manic, but they're not frantic, they're not stressed, they're not like harried. You don't see harried creative people. You don't see someone sit down and go, "Oh, hey, let me worry about my taxes for 20 minutes and then go write the sonnet." That's not how that works.
Right.
So each one of these builds on the one before it, except for compassion and curiosity. Those two kind of flip around. But everything else is like one step leads to the other step. And while you're doing breath work, you will reliably walk through those steps. Whether you set, I would prefer that you set them as intentions, but whether you set them as intentions or not, you're going to go down that path.
So if I come to you, I've never done breath work. Um, is it once a day? Is it once a week? I mean, what kind of commitment are you asking somebody to make in order to begin this journey?
Uh, Probably 2 hours once a week.
Once a week. Okay. And is this something that is this material something you're giving somebody prior, or are you inviting them into the process and then as they go along, are they going to get more curious? Because I would, are you going to, or are you just kind of inviting them into the process when they start?
Usually people invite themselves into the process that they have some pain point in their life that they're dealing with, that they have a trial, they have a tribulation that they're dealing with, and then we help them with that. And then at that point, whatever is, we offer them guidance at that point that there's a series we take them through that says, hey, if you're going to continue to do breath work, here is a series of intentions or thoughts that you could have as you go.
Okay. So, and then real quick, the difference between the journey to self-awareness and the journey to, say, enlightenment.
hmm Well, to some people, they think those things are the same thing. Um, and it's and in some cases they are. That self-awareness is seeing reality as reality is. That you're able to see yourself accurately, you're able to see the world accurately, you're able to see the actions that you take and the responses that you get in the world accurately. That would be one form of self-awareness. That's also one form of enlightenment. Many times when people talk about enlightenment, what they're really talking about is transcendence.
Hmm.
And transcendence is closer to wisdom than that. Just because you're self-aware doesn't mean that you have wisdom. It also doesn't mean that you're transcendent. It just means that, like, hey, I have an accurate map of reality, the world, and of myself and of the people around me. And now I can make better decisions because I have a better map of that world. Transcendence is I am now in a position that I no longer have to worry my ego no longer has to worry about me, and I don't have to focus on me and my results and what I'm doing. I can focus the majority of my efforts on making the world and humanity and everybody I touch a better place from a place of compassion and creativity rather than striving. It's aspiration rather than ambition.
Okay, so I'm coming to you. I noticed that I've got anxiety. I can't. Okay, I've got
Hmm.
tremendous anxiety.
Hmm.
Work is driving me crazy.
Hmm.
Um, my home life, it's not. I'm just crazy. So I'm looking now. I show up, and you put me through a breath experience. Uh, Out of your experience of the people that are going to go on this journey, is there a point where I'm talking now about the breath work is essentially a letting go practice. So,
Yes.
when people are breathing this and they're entering into this kind of surrendered state, are you noticing at any point people having a breakthrough to transcendence, and is it a one-time event? If they have it, does it aid them on the journey? Or do they stop? Or do you understand the question?
Well, there's about eight of them there that I'm going to
Yeah.
cover. So, yeah.
Okay, good.
Fewer questions at a time would be great. So one of the things that you covered in the beginning was this is a letting go process. And it is that when we practice breath work, one of the things that we're doing is that we focus on the inhale. So all of our effort, all of our focus, all of our work is on the inhale. And then when we exhale, all you do is relax. You don't do anything to help the exhale. It's just like dropping a rock out of your hand or letting go of something. So every exhale is the practice of letting go. That a lot of times people, they're doing breath work and there are styles of breath work that do it this way that we don't, that it's big inhale, big exhale, and they're pushing both directions. I think it's a better practice for life to alternate between diligence and flow. That people get stuck like, oh, I want to be in flow. And it's like, well, you also need to practice diligence. And diligence is hard work, effort. Hey, I need to develop a new skill set. And that's going to be the diligence practice. And then as you practice that, you'll become more fluid at it. And then as you become more fluid at it, you can become flow. So breath work is the practice of work and letting go. That you have to do both. You have to push the rock up the hill and then you have to let go of the rock down the hill. One of the other examples I use is that it's a lot like shooting a bow and arrow, that drawing the arrow back is a tremendous amount of work. It takes a lot of strength, it takes a lot of work, and you pull it back and then you let go of the arrow. And I see a lot of people in life when they should be letting go of the arrow, they're still holding on to the arrow and trying to walk it forward and control it the whole way. And it's like, no, no, the part where you had control is where you were holding it. And then once you let go, it's like, well, we're going to find out what the results are going to be. And then you talked about, well, anxiety, life not going well. One of the beautiful things about breath work, when you come in and do it, it's a 2 hour experience. There's an afterglow from breath work that lasts anywhere from 2 to 4 days the first time you do it. So you come in, you do one breath work session, let's say you do it Monday. By Thursday, you're going to feel more calm, you're going to feel more centered, grounded, present. You're just going to feel more at ease until about Thursday. And then around Thursday, life's going to start catching up with you and it's going to start wearing off. And you're going to go, I knew it. This didn't matter. Oh, this didn't work. One of my other favorite things is people come in and do breath work and have this completely transformational experience for 4 days and they'll go, well, I started taking this supplement 6 weeks ago and I guess it just kicked in, but it wasn't the breath work that I feel all better because of. It was this supplement that I started 6 weeks ago that finally kicked in. I'm like, oh yeah, sure it is. Um, but besides those people, that it will begin to taper off. And one of the reasons it begins to taper off is things that are out of alignment in your life, that your life's not in harmony. So for me, when I first started doing breath work, I was dealing with an incredible amount of stress. And around Wednesday, it would start wearing off. And as I continued to do breath work, what I realized was, hey, there are areas of my life that are out of alignment. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, you can keep taking the aspirin, or you can stop hitting your thumb with a hammer.
Hmm.
And it's like, hey, maybe stop hitting your thumb with the hammer and you won't need so much aspirin. And kind of what I was doing in my life. So I'm like, all right, well, now that I've experienced this peace, now that I've experienced this calm, I can see more clearly the things that are out of alignment in my life, and I can see the shifts that I have to make. And that by making those shifts, um, you know, things going wrong is inevitable, but there's just less consistent chronic stressors in your life that are going to push you to that place that you can make better decisions, so you can make better choices. You still have to make those choices. Like this isn't a magic wand that just goes, all right, now everybody else in your life is going to be magically a better person because you're calmer. No, you're like, you know what? I don't like how you're approaching this with me. I don't like the support that you're giving me. I feel that when I talk to you about the interactions we have and that all of your responses are inappropriate. I would like you to change that. If you can't, I'll remove you from my life. And
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, if I got anxiety and I'm coming to you, is the
mhm,
first step the awareness of the anxiety or is it the calm?
calm.
Okay.
You
And
know,
and
the
then
calmness is going to, fortunately, unfortunately, once you experience calm, then you're going to become even more aware of the anxiety.
oh, okay. And so this connection then happens and you're talking, is this more of a connection with other people? Is it the community? Is it an internal connection? I mean, what's
Well, I'm going to answer one more question that you asked
okay.
originally,
Yeah,
and
I'm
then we'll
glad
get
that
to the
you
connection.
remembered. Yeah,
Yes,
I got lots of
I'm
questions.
I'm I'm used to people asking 8-part questions and then having to unpack all of them. So the last thing that you asked about was transcendence
Yeah.
versus enlightenment. My goal for people when they come to breathwork is that they experience complete transcendence, their first breathwork session. And transcendence is loss of space, loss of time, loss of self. It's ineffable. There are no words to describe it. That it is that you are an atom and you are the universe and you're a star and you're nothing and you're everything everywhere all at once. And it's a beautiful experience when you have it. Now that may not happen for everybody. The most common experience is of deep meditation where your mind goes completely quiet. But my hope is that you experience transcendence every time you do breath work. That's my goal, my dream, my desire, my wish for you. And then um, that transcendent state does again create that afterglow of peace, serenity, being at ease, moving forward, which is what we call calm, grounded, centered, present. And then your next part is, hey, we're moving on in the map. The next part is connection. What is this connection? And connection, when we say something is connected or make contact, contact is a touch point through which energy can flow. It is a touch point through which energy can flow. So when you go on a date and you go, no connection, what you're saying is, we didn't exchange any energy. I put my energy out there, she put her energy out there, nothing got exchanged. So you need to have that energy flowing through you. So the first level of connection is self connection. And that self connection is we are going to connect your body to your mind and then connect both of those to your emotions. So when people come in and go, hey, I'm trying to find myself, as a younger man, I was always like, well, where'd you lose them? Like, was it at Walmart or like did you leave it at a bus stop? Like, how'd you lose yourself? What's going on here? And what they've lost is their connection to their values that they're looking for. Like, what's important in my life? And the reason that they don't know their values is because their thoughts, their emotions, and their body aren't connected to one another. That you have three energetic systems within your body that aren't making contact, that aren't exchanging energy, and you can't connect to anybody else until you're connected to yourself. Hey, I'd like to connect with you. Hey, bro, you don't know what you think. That you are replete with, all this cognitive dissonance because your emotions and your thoughts and your body are all on three separate planes and not communicating. And that once you get all three of those communicating, now you can have that authenticity, now that you can have that clarity, now you can have that alignment that you can't have alignment until you're connected to yourself.
So I would think the clarity piece coming from the connection, well,
Hmm.
every one of these stages sounds like you said, work and challenging, but when the magic happens and the connection happens, I would think the clarity for me I mean, are you in a position where you're offering assistance and mentorship through this process where people have, if I've had this connection now I'm like, what do I do with that? I've never had that before. And then
Right.
making the jump to the clarity, is that That sounds like it's easy, but I'm guessing it's not. Yeah, maybe
It
it clouds people's clarity. I mean, are we still clouded? And how do you help them get through the fog?
Yeah, we help them get through the fog. We talk to them about that. We have coaching that we offer on that. One of the other things that the fog that you have for that is going to be, kind of mentioned a little bit before, the cognitive dissonance that you have. And cognitive dissonance is you have values that are competing with each other. So one of the most common ones is, I want to be rich.
Hmm.
Rich
Every,
people are rich people are evil.
ah,
All right. So which one of those values do we really believe?
ah,
Hey, I want to be rich. Um, the only way you can get rich is by stealing from other people, by really hard work. It can't be done easily. That there's a tremendous amount of cognitive dissonance there. Um, hey, I'm lovable. Oh, I have to completely change my personality so people will like me.
right.
So going through and finding out what is bedrock for you? What is true? What is the value? And what does rich mean? Do you need to be a billionaire? Or do you just need to, like, hey, I need to pay my bills and be at ease? And I think most people, if they truly access their value, could probably work to a half or two-thirds as much as they do and still maintain the lifestyle that they have. That most people are working like they're subsistence farmers for a lifestyle that's pretty good. And it's like, wait, why don't you just make yourself more valuable and then work less instead of just grinding so hard all the time for this achievement in the world that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's the you're speaking about the personal development. So your breath work is an investment, right? In the
Yeah.
process of inner connection, my assuming inner awakening.
hmm
So as I'm moving, along the map, we move towards courage. How much of the breath work is showing me my resistance?
Yeah, it can be quite uncomfortable. That's one of the other analogies I use, that it can be like a massage. When you're getting a massage and everything's healthy, it feels great. And when you're getting a massage and there's a tender spot, it's like, oh, that's the part we need to work on. And you generally don't want the masseuse to work on that part that's saying, like, no, no, don't touch that anymore. It's like, no, that's exactly the part we need to touch. And the same thing happens in breath work, where um, some of the experiences are very positive, very reaffirming, very like, oh, this is wonderful. I'm wonderful. The universe is wonderful. I love all of you. And then there are other experiences where it's you're seeing your shortcomings, you're seeing your flaws, you're seeing the areas where you fall short, and how you need to work on that.
And is there, I know we've talked before about you've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. In the human condition, we all have this wounding, right?
hmm
And some of us I have, oh, well, most of us at some point have over-identified with the victim.
hmm
And we've gone to a place in a sense of like escapism, like I need to get the hell out of here and whatever that looks like, or the inner critic piece that's saying, you're a piece of shit, or you shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm assuming most people are kind of stuck in this kind of a cycle, or this guy I'm married is causing me all the problems.
hmm
Not having the ability to see that I chose him, right?
Right.
Or
hmm
her. That
hmm hmm
owning that piece of that thing. So in breath work, do you do this kind of teaching where you help people identify some of that inner resistance? And then how does the breath work maybe move people into maybe a bigger picture or this? I'm assuming you're doing breath work, you're taking care of yourself. So just the
hmm
act of doing it is going to make you feel better. And then the emotional piece, how people are learning to maybe embrace their emotions, and then eventually maybe being okay with the fact that we don't run the show, there's mystery out there. And I want to get into plant medicine maybe on that area, maybe how we get more into the dark and we move
Right.
into this courage, right? So
hmm
the shifting, how many people, or when you see people moving to that courageous spot, where are they getting scared there? Like they want more information, but I don't know, man. Do they end up leaving because it's too intense, or
Um, One of the beautiful things about breath work is that they can always modulate the intensity themselves. And it's beautiful in that regards. And then it's also um, you know, I I want everybody I kind of think there's this emotional healing journey that we go on at the beginning. And I think emotional healing, if you kind of do it at a normal pace, takes about 2 hours. Of course, I would like to do them in 6 months, but that is quite a bit more intense and quite a bit less comfortable than most people are willing to like, because I just want to get stuff done. Like, hey, if we've got to do this hard thing, let's do it quick. And other people would rather like, yeah, let's take our time doing this difficult thing. So it's like the speed that you progress is up to you to get through that part of it. That's
The
going to be
emotional
difficult. That's
piece.
going
You're
to be
talking you
the emotional piece. That's up to you.
because I've been spending
Once,
my whole life stuffing, right? I don't
right,
want to feel anything. I've been,
hmm
I get up in the morning, I go, I don't want to feel, so I'm
right,
assuming that that takes a bit of courage, right?
it does. The the reason that clarity is before courage is that if you are confused, you are always going to say no.
Hmm.
And like when people say trust the process, being a skeptic myself, before I began this process, I was like, yeah, well, what if the process is stupid? Like, what if the process doesn't work? Um, and once you have clarity, clarity gives you a direction, it gives you guidance. That once you have that clarity, it is much easier to have courage and enthusiasm about something you're clear about. If someone gives you directions that are very unclear and you don't know what you're doing and you're just fumbling around with whatever it is you're trying to do, it's very difficult to commit to that because you are fumbling around with it because you're unclear. So that clarity gives you courage. Now you might get up to the precipice where you need to take the big leap of faith, and it's going to take more courage than you have at that moment. That's like, all right, well, let's come back and let's do a little more breath work. Let's find a little more courage before we do that. But there are, have you taken all the baby steps that you can take? Have you done all the due diligence that you can do? Have you laid the groundwork? And I see people um, be less skillful on both ends of this, where they just take a flying leap right out of the gate without doing any groundwork, or they do groundwork forever trying to prepare for it so that they don't have to make the big move. Um, and in one of the things that we talk about breath work is that there is no right way to do breath work. There's no wrong way to do breath work. There's only more skillful and less skillful. And that applies to the rest of life as well. That doing breath work doesn't release you from the need to be skillful. You still have to have skills and you still have to be able to apply those skills. And breath work will allow you to see like, hey, where am I skillful? Where am I not skillful? Where do I need to shore up my abilities? Before I make this next leap, that I'm not trying to get people to do breath work so that they can just take a big leap out into the world.
Mhm. Yeah. And so the courage piece seems when somebody gets to that point, that's
Hmm.
like a big transition piece.
It is.
And are you talking about this courage to speak up about what's going on and get clearing it and maybe asking for help? Or is it something deeper as far as the courage goes? Maybe a willingness to, there's something I really want to, there's something is in there. I don't know what it is,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, I remember
Hmm.
working with you at one point. I had this tyrant, right?
Hmm.
And it just kept coming up, and through a process, I became much more aware of this tyrant, right? And
Hmm.
that I had a name for it, so the clarity was getting real clear, but it scared the hell out of me because I didn't have any. It was just acting out like
Hmm.
it's coming out of nowhere, and I called and I was like, "Oh my God, I mean, just got this fucking tyrant," And what you said to me was, you laughed and you said, until you fall in love with this tyrant and you invite it along, you accept that it's there and that
Hmm.
it's there for a purpose. So, invite it, talk to it, trust it, that kind of thing. And I remember there was an inner courage of having to go through that.
Hmm.
Of course I had faced other things, but this one was pretty big. So when I think of courage, I do think of this deeper, but I also picked up the phone and called, right?
Right.
Um,
And you asked.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, is this it's part of the commitment? Are you speaking to people about, hey, you might get to this point, I'm here for you? I mean,
I don't, it's if we're in an individual session, I absolutely do. A lot of the sessions we do are group and we're having group shares. So if something comes up during that group share, I'll talk to them about that. A lot of times when with that kind of thing, I have an email series when they sign up for breath work that's taking them through these steps. And it is a lot of self-discovery. And when you say the word courage and about it coming from the heart, it's a French word, C-O-U-R-E. It's actually a French word that means heart. So like Coeur d'Alene is the heart of something up there in Idaho. But the um, point of that is the original meaning of courage was to speak one's heart with one's full emotion. And that is courage. So that it is something that comes from within you, that you're going to be vulnerable, that you're going to um, speak your heart to the world, uh, and be open like that. So that is part of it. And if I was, you know, I'm more skillful now than I was the last time we had that conversation.
oh, really?
And yeah, and
What
if
what
I
would you say now?
if what I'd say now is like there is, in general, the personality and persona that you try to present is like very, hey, just go with the flow. I'm not telling you to do anything. Just do whatever you want. And I would probably say, hey, there's a part of your masculinity that needs to be more authoritative. And there's a difference between being dominant and being domineering. And you can be dominant without domineering. And you need to be able to express yourself more authoritatively without giving in to the tyrant.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And I've got the map up here and I noticed there's a road and it's interesting how you we're moving now to crossing that road because that's really what you're inviting me into is trusting that this what we call maybe a shadow of something that I've labeled as negative could actually be helping me move into a more confident person. That's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's what all our pain points are showing us. Hey, why does this hurt? It hurts because there's something out of alignment. That when we see stress in the physical world, when we see, hey, we've put 200 pounds of groceries in a grocery cart that only carries 100 pounds and it's overwhelmed, we go, hey, I should probably take some of those groceries out of there. But us personally, when we're overwhelmed, we just think, oh, I should be stronger. I should do more. Instead of going, oh, I've exceeded the capacity of the limit of this system that is me. Another stress point is when going back to the grocery cart, if you've got a grocery cart, one wheel isn't lined up and it's fighting you the whole time. You go, hey, this isn't in alignment, and it's taking a lot more effort to do this than I should. I should probably get a different grocery cart or get one where the wheels are aligned. Uh, but when something's out of alignment in our life and it's causing that stress, it's causing that pain point, we think, oh, I should just push harder rather than I need to step back and fix what's ever out of alignment in my life. This doesn't line up with who I am. This
Mm.
doesn't line up with where I'm trying to go in life. Hey, this may be a wonderful offer, but not for me.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, it's almost, I think about Al-Anon, I think about setting boundaries. Um, but what's amazing about this your invitation into breath work is that this can be a process of growing into this instead of saying mentally I'm going to do it because it
Hmm.
seems like mentally I'll just keep failing,
Hmm.
unless I get into the body and I'm experiencing kind of this transformation that's kind of happening through that experience, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. We often talk about that this is a process of transformation and growth. It's never a process of change. That you,
Mm,
Jeff Whitestone, are never going to change.
mm.
That the energy that animates you was the same when you were born. It's the same today. When when you have an oak tree, that oak tree's only ever going to be an oak tree. It's going to be a bigger oak tree. It'll be a more magnificent oak tree. It'll have more branches. It'll have branches that fall off, but it's only going to be an oak tree.
And I need to accept that I'm an oak tree. That's
Or,
because I've been
or,
trying my whole life to be a bamboo tree.
Yeah, or to be a mulberry bush. You're like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
a mulberry bush. And it's like, all right, well, let's see the mulberries, baby.
Right, 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 right.
So it's that is one of the jokes that the mulberry bush can't pray to be an oak. It's not going to work.
Yeah. And so in the process, then, as we gain more confidence, we start to notice, hey,
Well,
almost,
well, courage is fear in action. Hey, I'm afraid of something and I'm going to do it.
and,
That's courage. Once you've had courage, you've done the thing. I've taken action. I've done it before. I have the receipts. I have proof. I can prove to you that I've done this thing. Now you have confidence.
hmm,
I have done this. I am confident. I know I can do this because I've actually done it. This isn't a theoretical, and that's where confidence comes from. And confidence leads us to humility and to arrogance. That
interesting.
confidence is the positive. Humility is also a positive, but confidence says this is the upper end of what I'm capable of. I know right here, this is the limit of what I can do. Humility is well, humility is the other end. Humility is saying anything beyond that, I'm not capable of.
Hmm.
That requires humility. Arrogance is when you don't know the difference.
Oh,
That
interesting.
when people are arrogant, they think they're capable. Like when you see someone, you go, that guy's arrogant. He thinks he's capable of something he's not. At least you've deemed him to not be capable of that thing. You're like, you've looked at the task, I've looked at you. Nope, that's not going to happen.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of, we call it the you don't know my mentality, bro. Like guys out there, like, you don't know my mentality, bro. Like I just dig into it. And it's like, that's not a mentality thing, man. You're not that strong. You're not that fast. You're not that smart. You don't have the skill set to do whatever that task accomplishes, and that's arrogance.
Yeah, and I love the analogy with the humility piece too, or even knowing kind of what my highest potential is. Definitely stand into that, and it's just like, no, I'm not doing that or doing that.
Hmm.
But when I run across somebody who is maybe ignorant or arrogant, and
Hmm.
instead of I can immediately drop into the humility and just go, waste of time,
Hmm.
waste of time. In other words, I can pick and choose,
Often, I'm going, hold on. Let me get my popcorn. I want to watch this disaster unfold. This is going to be great.
and that seems to me be it happens more and more as we go
Hmm.
into the world that once we kind of have this sense of confidence that we're moving into that state of almost compassion now, right? Like you can kind of
Well,
see I've been there before
hmm.
and I don't need to go on attack, but I can maybe even be curious, right? Now you talk about curiosity next step, but I can almost be like, I mean, I have to decide, is this worth my time? Is this somebody that
Hmm.
because obviously I'm not going to get curious about somebody who's just so stuck in their way. But if there's right, this discernment of like, if I take the back seat here and I have a little compassion, I remember I was in that place too, taking an
Hmm.
interest. You almost know if that person is able to drop in and have a conversation, then you can move forward. But if it's just placating, yeah, thanks, see you later, you move on.
Right.
So this idea of compassion, you want to speak to that a little bit about how as we gain confidence, because we've been through a process, we
Hmm.
understand just because I've arrived here doesn't mean everybody is in that place. And
Right.
so,
That is, that's absolutely correct. One of the things you're talking about is something that we call the law of request. Um,
hmm,
and who do you decide to help? And how do you decide to help them? And who do you owe assistance to?
hmm,
So the first thing that we talk about is the law of request. Anybody who's ever said no good deed goes unpunished, it's like, yeah, because nobody asked you. The no good deed unpunished people is if you went to the gym and just voluntarily started coaching people up at the gym on everything that they were doing wrong, the response that they have to you is what's happening when people say no good deed goes unpunished. That person didn't ask you for your help. They didn't ask you for your assistance. They didn't ask you for your feedback. And if you ever have like tried to coach somebody up at the gym that didn't ask you for help, it goes remarkably bad for a reason. And so the first thing is, did this person ask for my help? No, I'm not helping. We have a friend who, um, without clarifying, likes to tell people, say the words. And what he's telling you is you have to ask me for help, but he doesn't clarify it after that, so nobody knows what the frick he's talking about. Um, so that's a little frustrating on its own regard. But if you know what's happening, it's entertaining because he's frustrated they're not asking for help, and they have no idea what words they're supposed to be saying. So it's entertaining for me on both sides. But after they've asked for help, um, who do you help? Are you capable of helping them? Will they actually accept the help? Will they receive the help? Are they capable of executing on it? We had a discussion the other day about like who do you if they haven't asked for help, who do you help? And I said, is there force or is there fraud? Like, is someone forcing them against their will or is somebody defrauding them? You might want to step in those instances, and otherwise, if you're going to make an unforced error, I'll let you make an unforced error. It's again entertaining to watch as long as it doesn't cost me money. But then it comes to who do you help and why, and we come to compassion and curiosity. Now, compassion and curiosity are the only two steps that can reverse places.
Hmm, that
You
makes
can
sense.
you can become curious about somebody and go, "Hey, I care about you. What's going on over there?" Like I'm sure you've had friends that make a decision or take some actions. You're like, that's not sure what that's about. What's going on here? Well, what are you trying to do here, bud? And that makes you curious.
Hmm.
And so you're checking them out. And then as you become curious, you have compassion for them. Aha, I see what's happening here. You've been given an unskillful plan to execute on this. Would you like some help with that? I can help you. The other way is that you become compassionate about someone. Hey, I have great feelings for you. I would like to, compassion means to suffer with. That like, hey, your suffering is creating suffering with me. I would like that to end. How can I help you? So those two steps you can become curious first. And then as you become curious about someone and you learn more about their situation, you become compassionate. Or you can care about them deeply, and as you care about them deeply, you want to learn more about what's causing this.
And self-compassion.
Hmm.
Okay, as it relates to curiosity. I'm thinking about if I'm moving, if I'm the the I guess I'm saying is how does the idea of compassion and working through breath work help me with deeper self-compassion? Because at least in my experience, it seems like the more compassionate I've been through that process, the deeper and more compassionate I can be with other people.
Yeah. Um, all of us are all of us are limited in what we can offer to other people to the depths that we can offer it to ourselves. That you are not going to be more compassionate, more kind, more generous to someone else than you are to yourself. The people who are super self-critical often think that they're being very kind and understanding with other people, and the other people in their life certainly do not believe that they're being treated kindly or with great understanding, that they feel they're being picked upon greatly. Uh, but based off of that person's internal dialogue, and their complete lack of self-compassion, the other people in their life definitely feel attacked. So that self-compassion begins with understanding and accepting your own suffering. Like there was probably 45 years of my life, I was not going to admit that I was in pain to myself.
Mm.
Like just wasn't even going to admit like, hey, this hurts. And now stuff will happen and I'm like, ow, that that hurt. Let's not do that again. Um,
Which is the emotional awareness.
it's emotional awareness, physical awareness. Like even physically stuff would happen to me. I'm like, nope, didn't hurt. It's like, all right, well, you seem to be bleeding pretty profusely. You might want to have that looked at.
Yeah,
Um,
and I feel like I want to interject a little question here about plant medicine.
okay.
Um, well, just based on some experience I've had, but at what point what's the role that plant medicine is playing in that deeper self-compassion? If I'm not saying there's a guarantee because I'm assuming it's everybody. I mean, as you know, when I did started working with plant medicine, I was very, very resistant. I didn't want to drop into my own suffer. I had been spent so much time and effort, you know, trying to avoid any kind of inner conflict or pain. Um, but you know, what's from your, I mean, it sounds like it's somewhere along the line you started in plant medicine, you got into breath work. My guess is because it's an easier, softer way to begin a process. But what's the role in your mind for plant medicine is regarding that process of self-compassion?
Plant medicine, self-compassion, like one of the ways that one of the big things that plant medicine does is there's this thing in our brain called the default mode network.
Hmm.
And what makes humans beautiful and smart is our pattern recognition, that we have this ability to match patterns, not just physically, emotionally, mentally, that we see something happen and we create this large block of like, hey, this thing happened. I can automatically assume the next 20 steps of this process are going to fall into place. Um, you know, my mom came home and she put her keys down in a certain way that lets me know like, oh, today's not going to be a good day. Like we are going to have to deal with some shit today. Things like that. So what psychedelics does, and that's your default mode network, that you have this default mode that is the frame, the paradigm that you see the world through. That you have this framing that takes place of this is how I see the world. And the reason for that is really ingenious in that our conscious mind takes in about, I believe it's 125 bits of information per second. That consciously, through our five senses, what we consciously can recognize is about 125 bits per second. That's in comparison to our subconscious mind, which is all of our senses coming into our brain all of the time. Everything that's happening all around us is 11 million bits per second. So the difference between what we can consciously recognize as happening in the world and what is actually happening in the world is enormous. And the only reason that we can focus on what's important is because we have that default mode network that is filtering reality for us. Psychedelics, breath work take that default mode network offline. And now you are seeing the unfiltered view of reality. You're seeing the unfiltered view of yourself. It has the capacity to take your ego offline. It doesn't always happen. So, I think we talked about the other day that people with megalomania, you give them psychedelics and they're just better egomaniacs. Um,
So it's
so
not a cure-all. It's not.
no, there are people who think like, oh, psychedelics are a cure-all, and it's, hey, if you have borderline personality disorder, if you have narcissism, if someone's a megalomaniac, it's not going to be a cure for them. It's just going to make them a better narcissist.
It's and because the medicine is showing them a
Mhm.
truth, is it
It
right?
is showing them a truth, like, hey, let's sharpen the empathetic skills that a narcissist has so that they can manipulate somebody better. That's basically what that does.
Yeah, I had a story of a guy who had in the program. He was sober. He went to he had a sponsor and was working what he was supposedly, and he decided, oh, I'm going to go to an ayahuasca experience because then that'll cure the problem or whatever he was thinking. And he went
Hmm.
down. He came back, and of course he drank, and I don't think it went well for him. And
Hmm.
the guy that I know that sponsored him said, oh, that ayahuasca stuff, it just don't work. And I'm like, but wait a minute. You have to understand that it seems to me that the psychedelic journey is going to show you, if you're an addict or an alcoholic, you're going to see that. And
Hmm.
if you're not grounded in some kind of recovery and committed to a process
Hmm.
of being willing and somebody, a guide like yourself or somebody works with me saying, look, we're going to be seeing things here, especially regarding your addict and alcoholic. This could be a very dangerous thing. So
Hmm.
until you feel grounded or until you're educated about going on this kind of experience, you might want to be careful. And obviously this seems to be something that you would do with somebody before you're working with them with breath work, they come to you, you're gonna put them through a bit of an education process before, the medicine work.
Yeah, we do that as well. I'm often entertained by your friend going, "Oh, this ayahuasca doesn't work." And I go, "So you have a 100% track record with your method, huh? That's
Yeah.
how you're batting 1,000. You've never lost anybody."
Yeah, exactly. And we
Hmm.
know how much dangerous it's not just the escapist, it's also the inner critic. It's the one
Hmm.
that wants to blame the world for all the problems and staying in the eternal victim. And that's really what this is about, right? So
Yeah.
as we move on, then as we get into this idea of creativity, and this is part of one of my favorite parts of your map because when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, look at what's behind me!" Like
Hmm.
happened to me, right? And my
Right.
my teacher for my painting, she was a art shaman. What she did
Hmm.
was just took average people, set them in a room, had a process, communication, what's going on with your emotion, everything that you're doing kind of with breath work she would do in a retreat process. And then she'd say, paint, just paint, paint, paint. And don't worry about the outcome and don't worry about making money and just paint as a
Hmm.
process, right? And so
Hmm.
that's what happened. And obviously, then, with the help of some plant medicine and things, I ended up doing the glow painting. But the point is that it's never really about the art, it's about this process. And so I'm thinking about on these journeys, even with plant medicine thing, at the end of the road is this invitation into giving back. Can you speak to that as far as that?
Sure. Um, creativity is generosity. The again, like eight questions in there. Uh,
Yeah.
Always entertaining. The creativity it's the final step. That it is a generative step. It is the step where you are going into the unknowns, you're going into the unformed. That all creativity comes from the darkness. That you have people think, oh, it's going to be light and love. No, no, no. You're going to go into the darkness. You're going to take something that's unformed and you're going to bring it back, and then you're going to form it into something. This journey to awareness was a creative act for me, and I had to sit there with it for a long time. Now, I didn't just like come up with all of this by myself. No, I had all of those words. They were just in the wrong order, or they were in just a random order. And I said, oh, we can organize this a little bit more and make this a little bit more cohesive so that people can go through this process a little bit more easily and they can access each one of these things. Because I do see people coming to ceremony, coming to breath work, and they're like, I want to be creative. And it's like, well, how about we deal with that anxiety first? Um, like the chances that you are going to sit down to be creative while in full-blown anxiety is about zero. Like you need to be in a calm, expansive place before you can be creative. You may need a little pressure of a deadline so that you can really be creative, but you still need to be in a calm place. You need to be in a supported place, and that it is bringing something new into the world. I think being creative is a two-part process. That it is being fulfilling. To be creative and to be fulfilling, the work that you're doing has to fill you with energy. That if you're being creative and it's grinding you down, you're producing work, but I don't really know how much. Like you need to be tapped into some sort of energy that is filling you with that energy, rather than it sucking you dry. So it should be work that energizes you, and then other people should appreciate it. That if what you're creating nobody else in the world wants, I don't know. Maybe you're ahead of your time, and 500 years after you're dead, people are going to talk about what a genius you are. But it'd probably be better for you and everybody else if what you were creating was appreciated.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think of this glow art. I don't know if people appreciate it yet or not. I mean, or I get
Hmm.
the oohs and the ahs, but again, I think it's a spiritual practice, and I do agree. I can't, that whole map. It's like every time I kind of come into it, the creative process, I have to be taking care of myself outside of the practice. I have to be doing my prayer, my meditation, my sauna, and my I do go to the gym, I get in the cold plunge, and I spend a lot of time trying to build a calm space so I can hear the nudge, like from
Right.
an inner place. And I love the fact that this is coming from the darkness, which is really the journey you're inviting people into from the beginning is the inner work of the breath, right? Is
Hmm.
to get into the body, to get comfortable in the dark. And so what I've seen with you and your work is how you're bringing that into your studio. Maybe you want to just real quick, we're getting toward the end here, but maybe what you're doing to kind of continue the creative process inside of the breath energy that you're going to be launching coming up. So maybe speak to that rebranding process
Hmm.
and how can people find out about you?
Sure. So we have just completely rebranded as a company. I wouldn't say that we ever had a brand. We had like quasi logos and quasi looks and whatever the feeler look of the day was, and had a guy who was the Louis Vuitton brand manager go through and create a brand guide for us. We have a new logo, new looks, and we're taking all of that and creating new transformative packages. So we have. You talked a little bit about like, hey, are you guiding people through this? And it's like, well, we have kind of two packages. We have like a choose your own adventure breath work that you can come in as part of a group, and then we also have these journeys that I'm taking people on. That we have the journey of healing, which takes people through self worth and peace and regret, and then we have the inner journey to self awareness, which is the first part of this. Calm, clarity, connection, and then you get to the journey of outer awareness. And then after that, you have self actualization and then transcendence. So we have these journeys that we're taking people on that are packages of this is how you do this breath work to get through this process as quickly as possible. And then we also have a rebranding activation party that we are doing June 6th of 2025 here at our studio in Tempe, Arizona. We'd invite everybody to come to that. The last Instagram video I made, I said January 6th, and the studio manager was like, "Really? You don't know the difference between January and June?" I'm like, "Actually, I don't." Um, and then, to find out more about us, you can visit us online at breath.energy. It's our name and it's the website. You don't need a www. There's no .com. It is just breath.energy. Put that in your domain. It'll bring up our website. And then Breath Energy HQ on Instagram.
Very good. Well, I'm looking forward to being there. I'm going to bring a friend
I
down,
love it.
and I will definitely be working with you as we move forward. I appreciate your time, Jake.
Thanks, man.
Like I said, when I got this flyer, I really felt it really hit home with me, and I've showed it to some people, and I'm basically stealing it a little bit too. So.
Okay, beautiful. Please do. Yeah,
I'll send you the royalty
I appreciate it.
after I sell a piece of art. On the Whitestone side, I'm Jeff. I'm Whitestone, the glow artist. Obviously have a ton of art. We've just redesigned our website, www.whitestoneglowart.com. And my new book coming out is called The Art of Letting Go to Glow. It is in production. I'm hoping it'll be out this summer. But this is a series of conversations I want to have with people who have worked for many years helping people to discover the art and the blessings of letting go. And Jake, you're one of my, of course, mentors who've taught me a lot about how to let go on
Thank you.
a regular basis.
Right.
And so thank you very much. And yeah, we'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks for the time, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's see.